Have you ever walked by a situation, seen a need, come upon a difficult relationship, anything where you wondered what you could do, but you felt powerless, so you did nothing. You focused on what you didn't have. We get to learn tonight in our devotional as we walk through Acts chapter 3 about Peter and John. They were on their way to prayer at the temple. They prayed at home and they prayed at the temple, but they had public worship and private worship. But their prayer life tells us that they were in tune, that they were watching, that they were listening. The whole book of Acts tells us many times that they were filled with the Spirit, that they were being filled. That's what happened with them. And so they were coming back from prayer, and Acts chapter 3, verse 4 picks up the story. And it says that they noticed a man who was a beggar beside the street. And it says, and Peter directed his gaze at him, as did John, and said, "Look at us." And he fixed his attention on them, expecting to receive something from them. But Peter said, "I have no silver or gold, but what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus of Nazareth, rise up and walk." And he took him by the right hand, and raised him up, and immediately his ankles were made strong. Peter and John saw him. They decided that they would notice the need around him. They wouldn't ignore it. They wouldn't pretend that it didn't exist. They wouldn't say it wasn't their fault, it was his own fault or somebody else's fault. They noticed. They looked at it directly, and they called his attention to them and said, "We want to do what we can. We're not going to worry about what we can't." They even looked at him and said, "Silver and gold? I know you think that's what we're going to do. That's not the solution. Money won't solve this. You need God and a God-sized solution to take care of this problem in your life." And they went to him, they prayed, they talked to Jesus in his name, and they reached out their hand and added their hand to God's help. And the man stood up. And of course, there was great rejoicing, and a testimony went out, and many people were impacted by their willingness to give what they had and not focus on what they didn't. There's a lesson for us. If we're people of prayer, we cultivate a life of prayer. We're connected to the Spirit, and we're constantly being filled with Jesus. Then when we come upon situations, we won't have eyes for what we can't do. We'll have eyes for what we can. Here's my challenge. Just say this prayer. Jesus, would you show me with open eyes the need around me? And instead of focusing on what I can't do, would you somehow show me what I can? They looked at the obvious. That man needed to walk, and he needed to know Jesus. And so they took care of both things at the same time because of Jesus' direction. It's not likely that Jesus is going to say to you, "Go see a blind man and tell him to open his eyes," or a lame person, "Get up and walk." But it's very likely that in your context, your situation, that he would say, "Notice that person with a broken relationship. Notice that neighbor that just moved in. Notice that person who needs an encouraging word." And those are all things we can do. It's not that I don't believe in divine healing. I've seen it. Acts chapter 3 tells us about that, obviously, because it was an amazing event. It was the highly unusual. And that happens even in our day. And I've seen miracles like that sort of thing. But the point is, let's do what we can and watch God do amazing things in our life. I want to challenge you to just say, "God, you give me something to do. You bring me a need. You show me with open eyes, and I promise not to look the other way, pretend it doesn't exist. I will obey you. If you'll be the resource, I'll be your mouthpiece." May it be so among us. I'm Pastor Tim, and it's a joy to be with you this day as we think about our journey through Acts. God bless you.